Good morning. This is Professor Joy.
Yeah, good morning. Welcome to another episode of the Professor Joy podcast. Stephanie is here. Hello, Stephanie.
Hello.
Dr. Joy, how are you?
Beautiful. Thank you.
Beautiful. We have a bunch of things to talk about today, and I'm not sure we'll get through everything, but I sure would like to get started. And the first thing I have on my table is a story that appeared in last week's New York Times in the business section of all places about artificial intelligence, which we know has dominated the talk in the media. New things come up every day. Stephanie, you were just mentioning about music, right?
Yeah.
What was it about that?
So they can take anybody's voice and put it on any song so that the person isn't actually doesn't have to stand in a studio and record something for hours. They can just create a song using the person's I don't know how they do it, but I guess they take their tone and make it sound like them.
So almost like you could take a Pitbull song
Yeah.
and have
Yeah.
Drake's voice, kind of.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Interesting.
That
Yeah.
is interesting. That is
Yeah.
really crazy. The thing I want to talk about, though, is this new artificial intelligence tool called Pi. And a writer from the New York Times used it, and they found out, and I'm just quoting from the article, that the author's views were admirable, idealistic. Pi said that their questions were important, interesting, and that their feelings were understandable, reasonable, and totally normal. At times, the validation felt nice. Why, yes, I am feeling overwhelmed by the existential dread of climate change these days. The bottom line, though, is that humans are surprising, creative, cruel, caustic, and funny. Emotional support chatbots, which is what Pi is not. Dr. Joy.
So, that is very interesting because I have had some experience with superimposing intelligence where um, years ago, my first sabbatical, I did a proposal where it was inspired by Barry Edwards' book called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, where I started teaching my students the significance of right side of the brain and intuition and creativity and so on. And I realized that by showing people information in visual context improved their understanding, in a way, intelligence. Meaning, if left brain could do some analysis, and then you take that information, which is maybe numerical, and generate visual graphs or balloons or things they can see, the comprehension improved.
So that really is true, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I find students are better learners visually.
Absolutely. So
than they are from listening.
That was my sabbatical project, to come back and explain the faculty that sometimes I had a friend uh, um, who taught um, art history, and I told him about it, and he experimented with it, where he took a lecture, and in one lecture he just talked, and in the other lecture he, instead of talking a lot, he showed pictures of the historical essence,
Sure.
buildings, art, whatever.
Right.
And the comprehension, obviously, when it was visual, was much higher, which proved my point that if you take anything and you superimpose visual elements to it, you visualize it, you help them understand it visually, it goes off the chart. Similar kind of thing is happening with AI now, GPT, where they're trying to, like Steffi was saying. In fact, I was watching this YouTube presentation about the next level of GPT, which is 5 or 6 or whatever the next level is, where they're talking about bringing every aspect of human senses into reality. Meaning, we if you look at something and are able to read it, and then look at a picture, then you're able to visualize it, and then you give it to Steffi, and she creates music from these two, and now we have music supporting it. So now you got all three elements. You can even bring other senses into it, like smell or whatever. So what this next level of uh, Chat GPT is talking about is bringing every sense into the picture, meaning like we would have um, our whole life integrated, what we drive, how we eat, how we think, how we do anything in our life. I mean, everything would become so powerful and intelligent that this whole concept would guide us to the highest level of our achievements that we have never seen before in our life.
So while the achievements may be greater than ever before, how does artificial intelligence, though, work with being joyful? How would artificial intelligence ever increase our joy score?
That is a very important question.
Thank you.
The research has shown, so now they have been researching it, by the way, for 30 years now. Depression, anxiety, those two things, by the way, those are the two number one search engine items in the world. When you look at Google and you say, Google, what was searched the most was depression and anxiety. The second one is obesity and diabetes. Now, JoyScore, and this is something I have done a lot of research into and so on, figure out that what JoyScore does when people download JoyScore and get their JoyScore, it starts giving him a sense of comfort. So what JoyScore is, number one, it helps you with your mental health. Number two, it helps you with your well-being or wellness. Number three, it helps you with you achieving success in whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. And number four, it leads you to wealth because you start with mental health, you go to wellness, you go to success, and then you go to wealth. So these are the four things in this order that it is able to help you achieve.
No argument there. But artificial intelligence specifically,
I was going to, in fact, that's what I started with and I forgot all about it. I'm sorry. So the research they have done is that the cause of anxiety and depression is when you don't understand what's happening, and it leads you to depression and anxiety. So firstly, like for instance, if I, and this is what used to happen to me in the classroom, I'll talk to Steffi in my classroom and I look at her and I see her puzzled. I say, Steffi, what's wrong? You say, I don't understand anything you said today. I say, okay, now I want you to try to explain Gary what you understood or not understand, whatever. Tell him, and she'll start telling you. By the time she's done telling you, she understands. And by doing that, it brings her depression and anxiety down. Because the symptom or the outcome of that non-clear sense of understanding is depression and anxiety. You know, when we talk about self-esteem, so self-esteem is hurt, or self-esteem is sabotage when we don't understand something. It's, well, I don't understand. So once you, whatever it is, it happens, and ChatGPT is going to help people understand everything better. And when they do, they say, oh, I'm not depressed anymore. I don't have anxiety.
But for right now, as the article says, though, yes, it can give you these affirmative words.
That improves your joy. See, what is joy is, in a way, everything coming together in terms of you feeling comfortable with whatever it is that was making you confused or disturbed or unclear. Now it's becoming clear, and your joy improves. Your joy score is going to go up.
But is your score going to go up if something artificial tells you that things are okay?
It's happening to you.
And isn't it going to be better if somebody tells you face to face, or you're in?
Well, however it happens. In fact, there's so many different approaches to helping you feel clear about what's going on in your head. And sometimes being with someone helps you.
The last time we were here, you said something and it stuck with me ever since. You said human interaction is everything.
Right.
And I've heard that on so many, since you said it, I've heard it everywhere. I've heard it on TV shows, on movies and stuff. So, I didn't understand that because growing up, I would lock myself in my bedroom. I really didn't have social interaction. So I didn't understand how important it was. So, with this new AI technology, how's it gonna really affect people?
Very good question. So human interaction takes place in so many different ways and so many different levels. I'll give an example of how professors have office hours.
Yeah.
You can show up. You don't need an appointment. You just walk in. You sit down. And you can talk. You can ask the professor whatever it is on your mind.
Yeah.
So one time I'm sitting in my office, and I have two offices. One is my big project room where I have all the stuff, and then I have a square table where I sit down on this side, you sit down on that side, so we can feel equal. You're not feeling, oh, I'm talking to the professor. It brings them more closer to me.
Right.
So I always like that. So I'm sitting here reading something, and this girl comes in, sits down there. I said, well, how can I help you? He said, do you mind if I just sit here? I said, no, you're welcome to. I said, why do you want to sit there and not talk? He said, just being with you gives me calm.
Oh.
I said, you're kidding me. I didn't know I had that quality. I said, how is that? He said, because when I listen to you in the classroom, or when I listen to you talk, it brings me calmness. So even though right now you're not talking, but just being with you gives me calmness. So that is interaction.
Yeah.
Okay? So that is, let's say, the silent mode of interaction. Her being with me gives us a sense of comfort or interaction, even though we are not talking. Now, if I were to talk, so one time the same student came and said, can you just talk about something? I said, about what? I said, anything. I said, why do you want me to talk about anything? He said, that brings me calm. Same thing.
Yeah.
So that is second level of interaction. The third is that you're actively engaged. Like when we do projects, we do reviews, we put stuff on the wall. and I go up and say, well, these are the things which work and these are not so well, and that is interactive. So that is real interaction,
Yeah.
communication.
I want to jump on Stephanie's point
Please,
for a
yes,
second though,
yeah,
because as you said, human interaction and everything, and I'm not sure that AI is at a point right now where it will encourage you to have interactions,
absolutely, it
If
does.
whereas
It's already doing it.
JoyScore will
No,
give
yeah,
you
yeah.
suggestions
yeah,
to do those type of human interaction things that AI won't tell you right now. And I
if
think that's the big difference.
yeah,
Yes.
if an AI bot told me that I could achieve something and I could do it, in the back of my mind, I would know that it's just a bot and they're programmed to say those things.
Exactly.
So
Okay, if you
Exactly.
got that sense by doing stuff in Joy School, would it give you more comfort and confidence?
yes, because it would be myself.
Oh, see? So, so the the next chapter in Joy School is to bring ChatGPT to provide interactive quality where it would sense when she is answering questions what she could benefit from. And then come back and say, Steffi, how about you doing this or watching this video or this content? I think it may help you. Now, because Joyce Score is suggesting that she may be more comfortable doing it and benefit from it because she has already in her mind that Joyce Score is there to help her, you know. And that's how Joyce Score is helping people already because, some of the things we found out, which I think I mentioned a while back that we found a correlation between Joy Score and credit score, Joy Score and health score. So it's like, how? Well, it's obvious when I sit down and think about it because people who have a higher Joy Score, they have their life together, and obviously the credit score would be better, the health score would be better. Now, you were talking about interaction, and this is something I want to tell you. So Gary and I go to the gym early, like sometimes we're there at 5 a.m.
Mhm.
And gym doesn't open, they open right at 5. 10, 15 minutes before they open, people start lining up and start hanging around the front door. And they socialize, they talk. And a lot of this talk is nonsense, just talk, bullshit. But there is interaction.
Yeah.
So I just said to myself, I said, what's wrong with these people? Why do they show up 10 minutes, 15 minutes before they know it's not going to open, right? So then one time I always park my car in front of the gym. So one time I put the window down and listened to them. And it's the interaction the reason they're there is the interaction that takes place before they go into the gym.
Yeah.
So why do they show up? In fact, Braden Phillips, I don't know if you know Braden, he's our COO. He said, we are gym rats. We are rats.
Yeah.
You show up every morning and we just crawl around the gym and interact, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
But Dr. Joy, the other difference is when you go on to JoyScore for the first time, you're going to be asked specific questions. AI is not going to just go ahead and ask you specific. What are you going to say to ChatGPT? Ask me specific questions about my health,
They
about my
can't.
lifestyle.
No,
It
no,
can't.
no.
It can't. And that's the big difference between getting onto the JoyScore app because there's questions that the app is going to ask you to then come up with ways for you to have a better, happier.
ChatGPT is in its very early stages. Just introduced, just came out. It's got a long ways to go. But it's going to keep getting more and more intelligent and be able to interact more than it does now. all those things that we're going to say, well, it's not doing this and that, they're going to figure out a way for it to do that.
But we're there right now.
What are they?
No, we are. JoyScore is there right now.
Yes. Well, JoyScore is, it's funny you said JoyScore is there right now. This morning I was having a conversation with Hardik, who's a developer, and we were discussing. I said, Hardik, you're in technology because you're always watching what's happening and all the apps and stuff out there. I'm not, because I'm not a tech guy. And I said, what do you think of JoyScore? He said, there is nothing out there like JoyScore, because most of the apps there, Calm, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, none of these things give you anything to build your life. JoyScore is a solution to your life, how to build it. When people get 16-year-old and they're getting ready to be kicked out of the house, they say, listen, don't forget to download JoyScore. I'll pay for it. In fact, I've already subscribed to it. You can use it for free, because up to the age of 18 is free, by the way. Anyone can download up to the age of 18 for free. But I think there is a limitation where people are not allowed to download an app below the age of 13, right?
I'm not sure. Possibly.
You have to be 13 to be able to download an app.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, your parents have to grant you permission.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to you, sir.
Okay. So the other thing that we've had a discussion about in the past week, and seeing as this is when we're recording this podcast, it's a Sunday, we had an interesting discussion on the difference between spirituality and religion. And one of the things I was always wondering about, and that I was doing some research on, was the relationship between joy and spirituality. And so what I found was that those two, joy and spirituality, can be closely entwined. And in fact, that there are many spiritual traditions that emphasize the importance of cultivating joy and inner peace as a means of connecting with a higher power or ultimate reality. And some of the examples I found were in Buddhism, where the cultivation of joy and happiness is seen as an essential part of the path to enlightenment. In Hinduism, the concept of bliss, ananda, is considered a state of spiritual realization and union with the divine. The bottom line is, Dr. Joy, is that spirituality can help people find meaning and purpose in life, cultivate a sense of inner peace, and experience a deeper sense of connection with themselves, others, and the world around them, which in turn leads to a greater sense of joy.
Very true. In fact, it's interesting. You reminded me of when I was growing up. Is around the time Beatles was in India, and they went to, there's a place there called Haridwar, and they were learning meditation and spirituality, because they did research and they realized that India is a land of spirituality. And then the more they researched, they realized that the place where it all started, or is the center of it, is a place called Haridwar. And that's where they went, to learn. In fact, they are the ones who introduced this whole concept of meditation, yoga, and all that to the West. It's because of the Beatles, which it came out and became very commonly known. But before that, nobody knew anything about it. So I had a professor who always went to India. Every time he had a sabbatical, he goes to India. I said, why do you go to India? He said, to get my batteries charged with spirituality, because that is the land of spirituality. That's where it all started. So I believe in that if, and my, at least to some extent, not totally, to some extent, my upbringing was with those principles of spirituality. In fact, I used to be inspired by my father, who would sometimes tell me, and I used to criticize him, that he's still living in the old world. In one time, he had 15-year-old, and he's telling me, "Why don't you learn meditation and yoga?" I said, "Dad, the world has gotten up and moved ahead, and you're still living in the past. You need to grow up." So the thing is that sometimes, and now I am doing the same thing, that I wish I had listened to him. I would be so far ahead of it. But it all is about bringing joy in life. Because we have a happiness coach, Connie Rose, who is a happiness and addiction coach. And she always talks about that the first thing you need to do is learn how to love yourself. Because unless you know how to love yourself, you can never love anyone. You don't know what love means. So it starts with yourself. You love yourself, then you can love anyone. The same way, if you can learn how to be joyful, then you can teach others how to be joyful. And you start valuing it. The same thing goes about spirituality. If you can bring a little bit of spirituality in your life, then you can start telling others what it means. Now, by the way, I don't want it to be confused between religion and spirituality, because religious belief system is more of a, in my opinion, more of a propaganda. But spirituality is from within. It's in your core, It has nothing to do with religion.
In fact, Deepak Chopra had two interesting fundamental ideas about spirituality. Spirituality is about seeking a meaningful connection with something bigger than yourself, and recognizing that what connects you to a higher power also connects you to others.
Beautiful. That is so true. I think he said it very, very well. He said it. I like the way he talks about things. He brings it all together.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Even Oprah, of all people, has a strong belief with spirituality.
Yes.
Spirituality for me is recognizing that I am connected to the energy of all creation, that I am a part of it, and it is always a part of me. Whatever label or word we use to describe it doesn't matter. Words are completely inadequate.
That is so good. I'm so glad that you looked into spirituality, because my belief is that we have gone as far as we can in terms of technology, IT, GPT, you name it. What's still missing in our developmental process is spirituality. So to me, that is going to be the next revolution after IT. The next thing we're going to all realize that is missing in our life is spirituality.
That'll really change the world for the better when people start accepting spirituality, I think.
Because that's humanity.
Yeah.
Because we gotta stop killing each other and hurt each other and just think of ourselves.
Yeah.
Spirituality would teach people how to value others.
Yeah.
More than just yourself.
Yeah.
And that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Steffi and Dr. Joy, let me wrap up this podcast just by, once again, this is from Deepak Chopra, about how you can strengthen your sense of spirituality. And these are things that we have discussed in previous podcasts, and they will sound very familiar to our listeners who have been listening to us. Number one, spend 5 minutes at the end of the day writing down what you were grateful for. right?
Yep.
You do that.
Yes, every day.
You do that every single day. Gratitude amplifies the positive things, people, and experiences in your life and reminds you that you are blessed.
Yes.
Number 2, find a community of people that support you in your endeavors, be it a church, a parents group, a yoga studio. Elevate your vibration by being around people who lift you up.
Yeah.
Number 3, meditate daily. Your father knew. As you inhale, invite your greater source into your life. And as you exhale, offer your loving kindness out to all beings anywhere.
Beautiful.
Number 4, once again, something we've talked to all the time. Talk to strangers. Smile at people. Engage in conversation with people who you might otherwise pass by. And I think you mentioned that, like with finding the $20 bill on the ground and everything, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Making connections with others remind you that you aren't alone and that everyone has hardships and blessings in their lives. Number 5, once again, here's something that we talk about all the time in here. Volunteer your time for someone who is less well off than you are. Making a difference in someone else's life increases your sense of purpose and meaning on the planet. In addition to providing a healthy dose of perspective when your world feels small. I mean, we're like 5 for 5.
It's so beautiful because, you know, even in a very basic sense, I realized that act of kindness gives you the highest level of joy. You just feel so good when you do something for someone without expecting anything. You know, sometimes I try to get away getting something from doing something very small. I go to the front, the girls and the boys, who open the gym. I say, well, I'm going to Starbucks. What do you want? And they all give me a list of, can you get me this and that and that. And they came in early. They haven't had coffee or anything, And I bring a couple things for them. Their life just changed. The smile I see there, it just makes my day,
Exactly. Yeah, it makes you feel good.
Absolutely.
And it was just a very small act of kindness.
Thing, Thank you so much, Gary. That was beautiful.
Thank you. Steffi, thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody, I hope you enjoyed this edition of Dr. Joy's podcast. We'll be back next week. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.